In researching this documentary, as a grandfather of two and interested in what my grandchildren will be taught in school if their parents send them through the public school system, I came across a 7th grade reading comprehension exercise guide, correlated to current state standards. This guide is carried in Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, and other large book chains. One of the topics in this guide, entitled, "The Future of Food Today," indoctrinates younger generations to accept lab-grown meat and eating plastic-like packaging. Here is an excerpt from this topic, quote, "Nearby at Harvard University, researchers are working on an idea. They say, imagine finishing a bottle of water instead of looking for a recycling container to toss the plastic container in, you simply eat it. A new plastic-like substance has been developed that is completely edible," unquote. The article goes on to say, what if instead of eating meat directly from animals the way we have done for thousands of years, we grow meat in a lab from animal cells, quote, "The cells reproduce to form a piece of meat or fish depending on what kind of animal cells you placed in the machine," unquote. Do you want your children and grandchildren eating their water bottle and experimental meat from a lab? I don't. You see, they know they can't change older generations, so they focus on the younger generations, knowing the older generations will be dying off. In the meantime, they have slowly indoctrinated younger generations, with the quote-unquote generation gap and other means, to no longer listen to parents, but instead listen to the stage props of media and the public education system, the school, the parent, so that too many people in the younger generations are unwilling to benefit from the experience of those that love them. Parents who have seen more of life, who have lived long enough to have watched the devil change the props and scenery a few times. People who have lived a few generations and so have perspective. This reversal of family roles has been coupled with a growing push of the self-esteem movement in public schools to convince too many in younger generations to believe they know as much or more than people who have lived twice as many years, breaking up family the result. So all this is leading to too many playing right into the hand of those who want to change the social contract to make everything they receive a service instead of a product, removing their right of ownership, taking away the last vestiges of freedom from them through programs such as the Great Reset, freedoms removed, in the name according to elites and WEF and other places of quote-unquote saving the planet, when the very self-same elites fly to their Davos annual conference in hundreds of private jets, making a huge carbon footprint. These self-same people who own the large corporations who create over 70% of the world's carbon footprint, the world's pollution, yet have indoctrinated people to believe they are to blame for eating steak every once in a while, those elite hypocrites. They blame us for the plastic bottles in the Great Pacific Garbage Dump, twice the size of the state of Texas, the bottles that their factories made. Ordinary people didn't make the plastic bottles in the Great Pacific Garbage Dump, mega corporations and elites did, these same elites that want you to eat bugs, and social credit score away your rights and take away your ownership, while they fly on private jets eating steak and other meat, and continue trashing the planet, leaving 10 times the carbon footprint you do. Elites don't practice what they preach, they fly to the WEF Davos conventions in hundreds of private jets, but plan to force the masses to do things they won't do themselves. The private jets at Davos are a clear sign that these elites, planning to use compulsory force to make you eat bugs and otherwise sacrifice, will continue eating meat and living lavishly. What kind of carbon footprint does Al Gore's 20-room mansion leave? What kind of a carbon footprint does any 20-room mansion leave? Yet he claims to save the planet, and expects others to do what he doesn't, sacrifice and cut energy usage. So, you may say, why don't everyday people stop the WF and others, since there are many more us than them? The answer: Aldous Huxley, author of the 1932 book Brave New World, said it best. In a March 20, 1962 speech delivered at the UC Berkeley Language Center, Huxley said, quote, "There will be, in the next generation or so, a pharmacological method of making people love their servitude and producing dictatorship without tears, so to speak. Producing a kind of painless concentration camp for entire societies, so that people will in fact have their liberties taken away from them, but will rather enjoy it." Unquote. Since 1913, there has been a gradual push toward in-education in the media, a change in the educational system to produce behavioral outcomes, to get people to exchange basic rights for security, to have basic appetites satisfied by government in exchange for comfort. In other words, as Huxley said over 60 years ago, people have been indoctrinated to quote-unquote love their servitude. As public education becomes more and more homogenized with the global push of Common Core and other programs, with programming being the key word here, the elites have made people less and less likely to insist on their rights as human beings. So this juggernaut is heading faster and faster toward a time when what little rights people have to life, liberty, and property remaining will be stripped from them, and too many will look up and ask what happened. How did we trade democracy and free speech for a one-world totalitarian government, where biological parents are now just babysitters to children raised and owned by the state? If we continue trading freedom for security, we will soon have neither. Above, I believe you are seeing the infrastructure being laid of the coming one-world government of the Antichrist, and the mark which is spoken of in Revelation 13 verse 16 and 17. If you haven't already, you need to confess your sins, ask Jesus Christ to forgive you for your sins, and ask Jesus Christ to save you so you are taken up in the rapture spoken of in 1 Corinthians 15:52, so that you are not left behind to have to live during the tribulation period to meet the Antichrist and his mark.